Today I'm having a conversation with my friend Stan from Nigeria. He's been in Bitcoin for quite a long time. Stan, how are you today?
I'm great. Uh, Thanks for having me, Raj.
Of
It's a
course, I
pleasure to be
wanted,
on show. Yeah.
of course, I wanted to ask you some questions from with your perspective from somebody from Nigeria, somebody who lives in a place without a stable financial system. I guess you could say. Maybe explain that a little bit more. But I want your insights to show my listeners that Bitcoin is more than just replacing the US dollar. It's replacing everything as a savings tool. So let's get started. What are your thoughts on that? What's your experience been so far?
Okay. For those who don't really know me, those who have not heard me before, my name is Stan, probably known as Stan Orajis on Twitter, and I've been on the Bitcoin journey for quite some time, and it's it's one that is life changing. Let me use that word, right? So a lot of persons have their perspective from where they're coming from. And I feel they are actually limited in how they see or view it, right? So some people just feel it's an investment class. Some people just feel it's it's a way to diversify your portfolio. Some people feel it's just one of those things you need to have. It's a nice to have, like maybe maybe a new tech, something like that. But I think it's deeper than that from where I'm coming from because uh, I know a lot of persons understand that you, in whatever you do, you work or you have a business and you generate income. And from this part of the world where I come from, which is Nigeria, we are 100% savers. And when I say we are 100% savers, is we actually just save in cash. The reason we are 100% savers is not because we will not like to will not like to use some financial products, to take advantage of uh, the financial industry or whatever, but it's because we don't have those facilities, right? So this was one of the things that made me appreciate Bitcoin and even came into the journey. I was actually came I said I became a Bitcoiner just because of, yes, necessity is one because you want to protect your purchasing power, but before then, also curiosity. So, like I said, we don't have a lot of financial products to help you. You just save in cash. And when you can generate a lot of saving, or maybe when you've accumulated a lot, then you can convert it to maybe a small business, right? But then most people don't have the luxury of working on a job and then having a business because you can't do the two, right? Because of the time. So you need something to actually save in. And then most of all, we don't have stock market and all that. So we are actually good with buying lands and just using it to save as a medium to save. So Bitcoin is something I came in contact with that in 2020. I heard about it before then, but I didn't actually pay attention, right? Because there's how it depends on how you hear about Bitcoin the first time. Some people say it's scam. Some people, and we are from the part of the world where I come from. We are not internet savvy per se. So some people just hear it's a scam and all that, and you just lose interest. So it was basically based on necessity and then curiosity. I started digging in, and yeah, I wanted to know what it's about. And I think that's it.
So you said that people are saving and they're not investing. What can you explain to my audience the difference between saving and investing in your opinion as somebody who doesn't have the ability to invest in, let's say, stocks or save in stocks?
Yeah,
Because people generally confuse, oh, I'm putting money in the stock market and I'm saving, but that's not the case.
of course. The people here, like I said, in Nigeria, most of us, we just save, right? Because there's nothing else to do except for you to invest, for you to actually invest, right? So you need to have a lot of capital. You're talking of going into a very big business, or you're talking of, building, investing in real estate and then to rent it out to people. That's the way we invest. But besides these two aspects, we don't have any facility, we don't have any way to invest, right? So most investment are actually capital intensive because we don't have stock markets, we don't have financial products, right? So, like I said, we are more savers because we save in cash. An average Nigerian saves in cash. Sometimes you get to the point they do the fixed term. I don't know what they call it in other parts of the
Oh
world, but
yeah,
they call it fixed lock
like a GIC, a guaranteed income certificate. So you
income.
basically
Yeah, yeah,
give somebody money and then what I'm hearing here is that essentially investing is risky where you're putting your money into something that uh can go up or down. Like you get real estate, you get stocks, you invest in a business, it can go up and down.
yeah,
Saving is where you just keep your money in something and you expect that it'll retain its value for the long term.
yes.
Why do you think Bitcoin is saving
Yeah, Bitcoin is
instead of
saving
investing?
of course. I see Bitcoin as savings. I don't see it as an investment. The reason I see it as savings is because it takes away the third party risks, right? So you're not actually giving your money to someone to help you outperform or to help you allocate it properly. So you're actually self custodying. You're actually holding. That's why we call it a full bearer asset, right? So when you're saving, you're actually in custody, just like in cash or maybe holding gold, right? But because in cash, how much cash can you hold? In gold, we can't even see gold, right? I know that's something people talk about, gold is, but we don't have access to gold because it's restricted. So Bitcoin is actually saving because you are actually retaining your purchasing power. But besides, I'm separating it from investment because there is no counterparty involved. So as
Yeah.
long as you're not giving it to someone else to help you outperform, and you're not trying to take that risk of a third party, right? So it's actually you holding the custody of your proof of work. Let me call it that way because when you work, you earn, you have to save it somewhere, right? So most of us save in cash, but to me, I see Bitcoin as the best way to save. I don't even call it investment because here, when you talk about investments, you're actually guaranteeing people a percentage return. So let's say I tell you, Raj, can I invest with you? The moment I use that word, I'm expecting a percentage return, right? In terms of when I say percentage return, nominal return. So let's say I give you 100,000. So I'm expecting maybe 10% addition to the 100,000. So that's
Yes.
an investment, right? So, but Bitcoin doesn't pay returns. It doesn't pay interest. It doesn't pay. It's just you. If you buy a unit of Bitcoin, that is what you hold. But the difference between it and something else is because you are not relying on somebody, right? So even the performance you're getting is because, yes, it's deflationary and is increasing your purchasing power. It's not like Bitcoin pays you any return. I know there was a post I saw, someone said it was comparing Bitcoin to Bernie Madoff. I was like, how is there a connection with Bitcoin and Bernie Madoff? You even call somebody and then you're comparing it to Bitcoin. There's no person, at least when you call Bernie Madoff, you're calling a human being, right? And you are investing in him, you are taking interest. So there's a counterparty risk. In Bitcoin, there's no counterparty risk. You are saving, you're holding, you're converting your whether cash or whatever into something that you actually hold. So it's actually different.
So I think that's to me that's what saving really is as well. So what you're doing is you're just
Yeah,
holding something, it's a bearer asset. You hold on to it. It's like having food, for example. If you
of
save
course.
in food, you can you can sleep at night knowing that that food is going to give you a certain amount of calories over the next
Yeah,
little while. That's saving. So I think with
yeah,
the way that I see it with Bitcoin, it's the most highly demanded commodity that I think I saw this somewhere. So Bitcoin is a commodity. The form of money that becomes a commodity is a thing that everybody wants. Everybody can use it. Everybody can save in it. Everybody has access to it. So the way that I see it with Bitcoin, you're just accumulating something. You're not worried about the dollar value. You don't have you like when you
yeah,
accumulate apples, for example, when you have apples, if you
yeah,
keep them in your fridge, you're not
yeah,
going to worry about, oh, the dollar value decreased. Maybe I should have waited to buy them. You're not going to think of it that way. I think that's the same way that I see Bitcoin. So you're just accumulating as much of it as you can.
Of course, of course. And actually, that's the way I see it because even from in Nigeria, when people try to, they have this restraint or constraint because they feel maybe, how can I buy this thing? Maybe it's too high and it's too expensive. You need buyers and all that. But I tell anyone can save in Bitcoin. Anyone can accumulate as much as they want, right? So your 100,000 always give you a unit, and that unit is actually what you need because, like I said, I don't know, I've explained this to you before. Over time, every year or every 2 years, there's no 2 year period where Bitcoin won't give you higher purchasing power in naira, whether it's in a bear market or a bull market, right? So whether the price, even when the price went in dollar terms, when the price went from 69K and went back to 16K, right? We were still around in naira term, we were still around the all-time high in naira term, right? Because the naira was depreciating or devaluing. So every 2 years, you will say, yeah, we say Bitcoin, it has a 4 year cycle. That's yeah, so this is naira, this is 104 million naira now. So okay, look at the previous all-time high. Can you see how it's insignificant? It's not, look at it, that was in dollar.
There.
Yeah, that was the all-time high, right? In dollar terms. And we already went above that, even when dollar is still below its previous all-time high, right? So it doesn't make any difference. If you have a unit of Bitcoin, it will always give you higher purchasing power compared to when you had it before. Every 2 years, sometimes even a year, right? So that unit bias people always have, they're trying to say, okay, I can't buy this thing, it's volatile and all that. I just tell them, focus on the units of Bitcoin you have, on the quantity of Bitcoin. If you had 0.01, right, your goal should be, I want to have 0.001, 0.002, right, or 0.2, 0.3, and all that. So don't look at it in terms of the fiat currency value. Because if you're looking at it in that way, you'll be actually restricting yourself from purchasing more. So I think that's where people get it wrong. So that's just.
So one thing that I like to point out is that the price in 2016 is
Yeah.
basically a rounding error. It was at I'm not sure why is it doing this. Okay, so in 2016, May 2016, it was at 90,000 naira. Today,
Yeah.
it's at 104,000 naira. Same thing. If you go Bitcoin to US dollars, exactly the same thing. In 2016, it was basically a rounding error. It's up it's up 13,000%.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is what people are missing. People are seeing that, oh, this is where the price hasn't moved above the last all-time high. It's just consolidating though. I think that's the thing that's hard for people. So what's your
Yeah.
strategy? How do you accumulate Bitcoin?
I do it on a monthly basis, or not really monthly is maybe due to income, right? But if I have excess cash, I just convert it. I don't check the price. I just
Yeah.
accumulate, right? Because like I said, it's savings. Your savings should be 100%. Your savings is, of course, the fruit of your labor, right? And
Yeah.
they say the penny earned is a penny saved is a penny earned, right? So, and from the part of the world where we grow, they say save for a rainy day because we are savers actually. That's our culture. Like I said, you can't spend without having savings. The other way you can spend is, let's say you borrow from someone. But for you to borrow from someone, the person is aware that you are a counterparty risk. So the person is giving you that fund based on, okay, I know you send it back. But we don't have a, uh, we don't have this facility, just like you have mortgage, you have lines of credit, business lines of credit, home equity loan, auto loan, and all those things. We don't have that. An average person cannot just walk into the bank and take loan. It doesn't happen. So you need to actually save to spend. But then when you are saving, right, and what you're saving is actually depreciating more than you're earning. In just in last year, that is 2023, the naira to a dollar was 465 to a dollar. Today is almost 1,700.
Wow.
So this is just in 1 year, right? So this is actually, and people, 90% of people, like I said, are savers. It's just businesses and big businesses that have that advantage of taking credits and all that. But we don't, an average man don't have that. I can't just walk into the bank and say I want to take loan on some. No, it doesn't happen, right? And even if you get, the interest rate will be too high. Some as high as 150%, some as high as 200%, right? That is neck breaking to even finance the loan. So majority of us are savers. And if what you're saving in doesn't retain, yeah, we are not saying, okay, okay, even if you are saying the inflation rate should not be too high, but 450 to 1,000 is almost 400% or so. Or I think it's 4x or so. So if what you're saving in cannot retain its purchasing power, not to talk of even help you even plan for the future, because you can't plan. Like, for example, last year, most businesses died. This year, most businesses, right? Most projects abandoned. You're working and you're seeing a building, right? It's already growing, what we call algae, this green stuff that grows on because of
Algae, yeah.
long time, yeah, algae, yeah. So it's the abandoned projects everywhere. That's because you can't actually estimate for a project. So let's say you have an estimate of, okay, I want to invest in this, I want to build real estate, or I want to take on this project for, let's say, a year or so, and I need to save so and so amount. By the time it's that year, you can't purchase the things you need to make that project come alive, right? So inflation has eaten your purchasing power, and you're just there. A lot of businesses shut down. Most businesses leaving the country. That is because of the death of the currency. So if our currency can't retain its purchasing power, because like I said, when you work and you earn, it's the fruit of your labor. So when the fruit of your labor cannot be saved, then what is there? So I just accumulate as much as I can. I don't care what the price is, deep, going up, just buy. I just
So the way that
swap.
I see it, I think um I think I've mentioned this in a video before, but I think Bitcoin basically it's almost like a cheat code for businesses because instead of
Of
having
course.
to instead of having to rely on investing in other businesses in order to save for the future, in order to protect your business's purchasing power for the future, you can just save in Bitcoin. You don't have to make impulse decisions. You don't have to
Yeah.
buy some kind of machinery because you know it'll increase in price in 2 years. What
Yeah.
you can do is you can focus on building your network and building your brand and just building the products that you offer, making them better and better. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on
And
that?
also, yeah, of course, of course. Uh, because what else? If the money you accumulate can help you finance your business and your project better off, and you're not relying on someone else, I think Bitcoin is the best tool to help you do that, right? So you have a business, and even businesses, they actually suffer this thing because when they make, okay, for example, uh, I was talking to a lady. She has this small scale businesses. She has this, they call it boutique. So they sell tops and men's wear and all that. It's just a small scale business. And what she notices is whenever she goes to the market to stock her goods, they're actually 2, 3 times higher, right? And let's say she bought that goods and maybe 2 months ago, and it takes her like a month or two to go back to buy. Before she goes back, she has lost purchasing power because her profit can't even purchase the present price of the goods because of
Right.
inflation.
Oh,
Of
so
course,
by
I
the
remember.
time so she sells this product and then by the time she wants to replenish her inventory, she goes back to
Yeah,
the supplier and she can't even buy back the same amount
she
because the
can't.
price has gone up so much. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes she has to borrow to meet up, right? To buy back because
Wow.
her profit has gone, her profit has been eaten by inflation. So it doesn't just affect it doesn't just affect maybe fixed income earners. It affects businesses also. Because
Yeah.
yeah, most people are just small scale business. Like I said, some people in a day, their profit might be just 10,000, right? That's approximately how many dollars? It's very
10,000
minute.
naira.
Yeah, 10,000 naira. Maybe should I call it
Let me see.
nine $9 or so? Not much.
10,000.
Then
Yeah,
divided by
something like
one.
that.
Yeah.
$6.
So
$5 and
okay,
ninety nine
$6.
cents.
Thank you. So that's just the profit for a day. And let's say she wants to go back to the store and she can't purchase that. What does she do? So it's of a necessity. The way I see it, it's of a necessity that everyone saves in Bitcoin. But because of the part of the world where we are, Nigeria, regulation, and so most people are even unaware, right? Most people are actually unaware. When I was talking to her, there are people who I even talked to, and they are literally crying because the level of hardship is too high. The level of inflation is too high. And it reminds me of I was reading the book When Money Dies about Weimar Germany, where the currency was pegged $1 to 4 marks or so. In 9 years, it was $1 to 4 trillion marks.
Wow.
Yeah, that was in Weimar Germany, I think 1930 or so. Now, what was happening then was people were earning their currency. People were being paid 3 times in a day. So when they are paid in the morning, they have to go and spend it in order not to lose purchasing power, right? So they have to go and spend, and they are paid in the afternoon. They have to go and spend. So they're actually spending as there's no room for saving. So imagine at that time something like Bitcoin was existing. You don't really have to consume all your funds, right? You don't really have to
Yeah.
consume everything. Yeah, this is it. It went from 4 mark in 9 years to 4 trillion. That was how it died. So it's not just then. This can happen to any fiat currency, even today. In fact, it's even worse today because people now have an exit strategy. At this time, there was no exit strategy. It was just fiat currency and probably gold. Gold is, of course, difficult to access because it's physical. And if you purchase a lot, you need a place to actually warehouse it. So there's also a cost to save gold, right? And then it's security and all that. But today, people can actually run away from this, right? And it's happening. Like, okay, what's different between this chart and Naira to the Bitcoin chart?
Yeah. No
What's the
difference.
difference? Yeah, in 10 years, it can be like this. The one we just viewed was actually just 2 years or so, where it went how many thousand percent. So
Well, I think that one
it
was
can
eight.
happen.
That one was since 2016, so 8 years.
Yeah, no, the one I was talking about was the
Oh,
Bitcoin all-time high 2021 and now, and look at how it went parabolic, right?
yeah.
So it can happen to any fiat currency, irrespective of country. Argentina, look at it, look at that, right? So it can happen to any fiat currency. Then we didn't have a way to exit this. But now, of course, people can do that. But when people are seeing Bitcoin as a way to diversify their portfolio, is actually funny because, like we said, Bitcoin is saving, right? And your saving should be 100%. And then you can decide, okay, let me allocate a percentage of that my 100% to something else. Then you are investing. But it's just saving, it's not investing, right? But because yes, we are interpreting it in fiat term, and then we are saying percentage gain, and we call it capital gain. So we are now tagging it an investment. But it's not an investment in the sense that it doesn't have any risks. It doesn't have when I say have any risks, it doesn't have a counterparty risk, right? So
Yeah,
your
you're
risk
not
is
relying on somebody else to pay you back. Basically, the network doesn't
yeah,
have
no
any
interest,
liabilities, essentially, right? Like
of course.
like let's say for example, when FTX collapsed, they held
Yeah,
a bunch of clients Bitcoin and they lent it to someone else. That had nothing to do with the Bitcoin network. That's like if a bank were to collapse and you you were to blame the US dollar or the US. I mean, the US dollar is more tied in even than Bitcoin in that situation. So Bitcoin has nothing to do with the exchanges, nothing to do with all these exchange rates. All this stuff is separate.
It's very separate. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It doesn't matter how people view it. It doesn't matter the lens at which they view it from. It's just doing what it's meant to do, right? Protect your purchasing power and deflationary over time, right? So I think, yeah, a lot, from time to time, as time goes on, people will get this awareness because everyone, like we said, everyone with the school system, of course, we have been indoctrinated or we have been taught to think inflation is good for us, right? The inflation is to our benefit. It will help us spend. No, if I want to spend, I'll spend, right? It, of course, like that I see my purchasing power increase in Bitcoin. It doesn't stop me from needing food, shelter, and the basic needs. I'll still meet that, right? So that my purchasing power increase in Bitcoin terms doesn't mean I'll stop spending. So these are the kind of teachings we get, and we don't have the proper view of what Bitcoin actually is. So, even defining money, and all that. So most people they just have this mindset or the teachings of the Keynesian teaching, you know, the university days and the economics background we have. So we don't have the proper view of this, and it takes a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work to understand the basis of all these things. So you have to actually, like I said, it was during COVID, I had to sit down and I said, I want to understand this thing. And I did it here because of necessity, one, because I needed something to help me protect my purchasing power. But there is an atom of curiosity. I think this is what most people don't have because they just feel we are meant to understand Bitcoin. Everyone needs to understand Bitcoin before they start using. They've not put themselves or they've not sat themselves down to actually think about what's happening. You were saying inflation, how many percent, and you're not even bothered. That's where the curiosity part comes in. So you have to actually be curious to ask yourself, what's actually happening here? How come the shirt I bought for 10,000 last year is now almost 100 and something thousand today, right? What happened? What's going on here, right? It's still the same shirt, still the same fabric. So we need to keep asking this question. If not, most people will just be floating. So that's
So I have a question for you. So if a lot of the new Bitcoin, the new people coming into Bitcoin think that governments can ban it. Can you explain why that's not possible? Because you, of course, as somebody who lives in Nigeria, you've gone through that yourself. Can you explain why that's not possible? Why government can't stop it? Why financial institutions can't stop it? Because that's something that a lot of people are worried about. They think the American government's going to come out and ban it, or the Chinese government, or the Russian government. They think that every government's going to collude somehow and ban Bitcoin or stop it.
yeah. Well, I think over time we've been taught to see government as very powerful, all almighty, high and mighty, right? So we just feel government can do anything. And I think I'll start this by quoting Hayek, where he said, I don't think we can ever have a good money again until we take it out of the hands of government. And we can't do it by force or by violence. All we can do is by some sly roundabout way, introduce something they can't stop. Yeah, I don't think Hayek was thinking of Bitcoin then. Of course, it wasn't. This is 1984 or 83 or so. But that is what it is today. So people who think the government can ban Bitcoin, they should think it the other way around. When a government is banning Bitcoin, it's just banning itself from Bitcoin. It's actually not banning Bitcoin, right? It's just like when what was it called? What country was that? I think it's Cuba or so, or North Korea banned the internet. They didn't ban the internet, right?
Mhm.
They actually restricted themselves from using the internet or the populations from using the internet. So they can actually ban Bitcoin because Bitcoin is not it doesn't have a central point of failure, right? So it's not controlled by just one person or a miner or a node, right? So it's distributed. So for the fact that even in Nigeria is one of the last countries I think that will be able to ban Bitcoin because our government, yeah, we call them government, but they're actually not as savvy as the population. I think, yeah, because Nigerians are actually very smart, right? We are actually very smart and fast, and there are a lot of things that the government have tried to ban, things that are legitimate, but people will still have a way because they need it. We need Bitcoin. Everyone needs Bitcoin. Even the government needs Bitcoin. But because they're actually benefiting from the fiat system, right? They will not, and because maybe they don't have people who are giving them the right advice on what Bitcoin is. The people tag Bitcoin as a tool for money laundering. Who in their right mind will use Bitcoin to launder money, right? When it's open source. It's better I will actually negotiate with a bank CEO, and then use it to launder money than using an open source protocol, right? So
Yeah.
they've tagged a lot of things. They said it's a tool for money laundering. They sell misinformation to the public. And that's the only strategy they have. The only strategy they have is they will discourage people from having Bitcoin. So they will target something so that people will not have that enthusiasm. They will not have that. They will not want to see it as needful, right? So they might block exchanges, block the fiat on ramp and all those things, but they can't actually stop Bitcoin because I'm conversing with you, right? If you decide to send me Bitcoin or I decide to send you Bitcoin, who will block it? No
No
one.
one.
So no one. So all they can do is limit the rate at which people will adopt it, but they can't stop it and they can't ban it. So I think that's how I want to explain that.
Yeah, so and then there's also I think there's another part there where in order for somebody to actually accumulate or in order for somebody to carry their Bitcoin around, they need to just have a seed phrase, 12 or 24 words. If you can memorize that,
Yeah,
then nobody can take it from you, right? And
yeah,
how are governments going to stop people from memorizing words?
yeah. And I think when people say government will ban Bitcoin, like we've established the fact that government can't ban Bitcoin because they can only ban what they can control, right? So they can, for example, in 1998, we had a very, not we had, before 1990, from 1993 to 1998, we had a president who was a dictator, Sani Abacha. So he actually controlled everything. He controlled the media. The news will come up. The news will come up at maybe 6 p.m., right? So everyone is expecting to hear what Sani Abacha has to say. And that is the only time you can listen to, watch a television or whatever. So that's the only time you can, because we had a central broadcasting station, right? It was one source. It was the government controlling the broadcasting. So whatever they tell you, you will hear. There was no way to, then we are not, of course, internet adoption in Nigeria was around 2009, right? So we are not that advanced in technology and all that. So what I'm saying is just the way they could control the news media because we are the one. Sorry, just the way they could uh, limit the information that
They could filter
people
it
could
out.
access. Yeah. So that's because they were the one actually controlling the media. But now they don't control their own Twitter. They can't control Twitter. They can't control. So there's, information is now everywhere. So that's one part. And then when people say they will ban Bitcoin, what they are saying is they will actually restrict the fiat on ramp. So let's say I have Naira, right? Okay, in 2019, 2020, you could actually purchase Bitcoin with your bank account legitimately, right? So banks will process Bitcoin transaction. And from your exchange, the banks actually had accounts on exchanges. So when you deposit, or withdraw, they will process it like normal transaction. But in 2021, they gave their first circular that banks should stop doing that. So banks stopped processing transaction. And then in 2024, just in January, they brought on that circular that whenever banks should block any account that they notice, because when they did that, people were still using the P2P method, which I'll explain. So in 2024 January, they also brought on that circular where they gave ultimatum to banks to stop or block any accounts that they notice has maybe a Bitcoin or crypto related term in the description, right? So these are just the two ways people think of it. But let's remember that Bitcoin is P2P. So if I have Bitcoin or someone has Bitcoin and he wants to pay me in Bitcoin and he sends me the Bitcoin and I send him fiat currency, no one can stop that, right? Because the only way they can even understand that that is a Bitcoin transaction is if I'm specified that it's actually Bitcoin I'm sending to you. I can actually send you Bitcoin, or you can send me Bitcoin, or anyone can do that transaction and use just use a description they want. So that cannot be said to be a Bitcoin transaction or a crypto transaction, whatever. So this is the way people feel the government can stop Bitcoin, because they can limit the rate at which people convert their fiat currency into Bitcoin to help them protect their purchasing power, right? So
Yeah.
uh, that's it. But with crypto community, and of course, yeah, and it's growing day, and like I said, Nigerians are very smart, right? So day by day, community will people will build community to do P2P exchange, right? So I don't rely on anyone. You send me what I need, and I send you what you need, and we are good to go. So I
So
think that's
P2P means, just for anybody who doesn't know, P2P means peer to peer. It means when you're, let's say you have let's say you have a $100 bill and you need to pay for something. You're literally handing it over to them. That's what peer to peer means. When you have
yeah,
somebody in the middle, that's a middleman and they can block your transaction. So what this means is, let's say you go to a bank and let's say I want to send money to some country where Swift doesn't exist. So there are countries around the
yeah,
world that are not on the current global financial system. If I try to send
yeah,
money to them, this bank can stop me from doing it. They can just say,
yeah,
"Oh, we're not able to send it there. You're not going to be able to send it." That's all. Before Bitcoin, it was not possible to really interact with these
yeah,
countries unless you maybe paid with a credit card. Even with a credit card, they're going to take a massive fee. Um,
yeah.
but then these people didn't even. I like the way that I see it. I think it was very hard to start businesses. It
Of
was
course.
very hard to interact with other people because if you can't use the banking system, if you don't have a financial system that allows you to move value, your customer base is much smaller. So
Yeah,
you have, let's say, your community. If you can't use
yeah,
credit cards, debit cards, if you can't have a credit card terminal, all you can do is you can accept currency. You can accept physical
yeah,
currency for whatever product. So the way that I see it, I think we have more opportunities because of this, because it's peer to peer. You can move it from person to person. Like if I wanted to
yeah,
send you value and you showed me a barcode, I can send you value. I can send you Bitcoin.
yeah.
Before this,
Of
I would
course.
have to go through, let's say, Western Union. I'd have to uh, put through a remittance. I don't know what I think that's what it's called. It's a remittance. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I'll give the money to Western Union, then Western Union will give you your money on the other end. But what they'll do
yeah.
is they'll take like a 50% fee. Like
Haircut.
they'll cut the amount that you get by 50%. So either I have to pay you
Of course.
double or you just
Yeah,
accept I'm getting half.
yeah.
And that's not
And
how the system I don't think that's how the system should work, because what's happening is these banks are in the middle and they're just extracting as much wealth from us as possible. Sorry, go ahead.
of course. And it's it's actually funny because when they Bitcoin is a game changer, right? Like you said, it actually gave business the opportunity to actually do more. Let me give an instance. Like I said, and this is what most people actually don't talk about. But I think there's in Stefanemu's book, he quoted a part where Alfini was talking about banks coming into the banks custodying Bitcoin and then uh, rendering services and loan services and all that. Let me just give an instance. I know, of course, when you use these things, you should be aware of counterparty risks, but it's actually better off, and that is why most people use some exchanges, right? And I'll give you an instance. let's say I save, like I save, I do bulk of my, I hold bulk of my, I'm giving an instance, I'm holding bulk of my savings in crypto, right? Or Bitcoin. I'm holding bulk of my savings in Bitcoin. And then I don't want to spend that my Bitcoin, which is an asset, but I want to take advantage of it. Now, remember I said here we don't have good credit system. We don't have a way to assess credits. Even if you get one, the interest rate is too high, is neck breaking. So this gives people the ability to actually access capital cheaply. So let's say I have that Bitcoin on an exchange. Of which most people use an exchange to hold their Bitcoin. Of course, there is a risk to that. Let's remember counterparty risk. But I'm giving an instance. Now, let's say I hold that Bitcoin on that exchange as collateral. I can actually access cheap credits, cheap loan, cheaper than my country, of which if I go to the bank, the interest rate is too high, right? Of course, what do we do with our savings here? The only thing that your savings can do, which is cash, I'm talking about, the only thing that my Naira can do is I can just use it to spend. Naira is not an asset in of itself. Nobody will take my Naira as collateral for anything. But someone can take my Bitcoin which is also my savings. Now I'm saying these are the other parts that even because we are not blessed with many financial products, truth be told, right? So I can actually use my savings, which is an asset, as collateral to access cheap loan to help boost my business better, right? This is something that even if our country wants to build something like this, it will actually go a long way, right? It will boost the savings of people and they can access cheap capital because the source is actually global, not just in Nigeria here, where credit is not available and where the cost of accessing loan is very high. So I think I just wanted to chip in that because most people were doing that and also doing that, before they brought the limit where banks cannot, people cannot use their bank accounts to access and exchanges, and where they started blocking exchanges and all that. So I was just saying that this is a way to help people access cheap capital, boost their business. It's still the same savings, right? They don't actually have to go, it's still the same Bitcoin they are saving in, but they can now use that same savings as collateral to access cheap credits to boost their business. When they make profit, they can, they can pay back the loan and get back their Bitcoin, and then they are good to go, right? So
So,
this is a yeah.
oh, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
How
you
much do
can.
you pay? Do you borrow US dollars or do you borrow Naira?
No, you borrow the Naira. You
You
borrow the
borrow Naira.
Naira.
What's the
But
interest rate that you're paying?
it's actually very low. Sometimes 10% lower than
10%.
that.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
compared
what would the
to
interest rate be if you were to borrow from the bank?
it's over 100 sometimes. Some
Over
take
100. Wow.
200%. Yeah, of course.
Oh, so
That's
200% versus 10%.
yeah.
Wow, see, that's what
The,
that's
the
like.
reason is because those you are taking the loan from, those who are financing the loan actually have they are not, remember the reason the banks will put it at 100% is because they are the one overseeing the financial system. So they feel you don't have a choice. Is either you take it or you take it
Oh, right.
because you don't have, yeah. But
So
when
they're
you meet
basically like loan
someone,
sharks.
loan sharks, thank you.
Yeah,
But let's say I want to borrow from you and I use my Bitcoin as collateral. It will be cheap because you are the one giving me the loan, right?
right.
So you can accept 10% and it's between us. But when you have a system, a centralized system that is now, you know, rendering that service, is like you can't do without them because you don't have an option. So they can put their interest rates any amount. And people are actually taking this interest, and most people just go bankrupt because they can't pay it.
Yeah.
Some 200%, some 300%. I'm not kidding. And these are legitimate financial institutions, right? So
Yeah, that's completely broken.
it's
See,
it's
I think
it's broken.
that's what like that takes me into something that I was reading about do you know anything about redlining by any chance in the US?
No,
No, oh,
redlining,
no
no.
worries. Okay, so redlining was basically a time where in the US there were certain communities who couldn't borrow money against their properties. So let's say if they have a house, they couldn't borrow against that house, while people in other communities in other neighborhoods could borrow against their house. And one
Wow.
thing that, like, as a minority, this is what kind of
Yeah,
I'm not using that as a crutch or anything, but I think this shows you the difference between a system that's controlled by governments versus a system that's not controlled by anyone. So with Bitcoin,
by
anyone can
government.
take on any loan, but
Yeah,
during this time back then, because of redlining, certain communities weren't able to take on loans, and those communities were Black people, there were brown people,
yeah,
they were people that were
yeah.
seen as lower than the
Lower,
majority,
yeah.
right?
I
So those
yeah,
people,
I know of this story in the UK. I didn't know it
yes,
happened in the US.
yeah.
It's
So in the
rampant
US,
in the UK because UK has this social class of its own.
I mean, it's
British,
happened
yeah.
I'm sure it's happened
Oh,
everywhere,
oh,
right? There, it's not even,
yeah,
sometimes it's not even based on color. Sometimes it's just based on uh class. Sometimes it's based
yeah,
on, like, in India, I think they have what, I don't know what it's called. But they have like classes of people, and then based on what class you're from, you get treated a different way, which to me
differently.
is a broken system. But then when you
Yeah,
have these people who judge you based on these classes, and these people control the financial system, that just breaks everything, right? It puts
yeah,
one group at an advantage. It allows one group of people to accumulate wealth and compound wealth, while
of
it
course.
takes that ability away from other people. So let's
Yeah,
say back then, during redlining, during this time, uh, the majority of, well, white people who owned houses were able to take on loans, and they were able to borrow money to buy more properties, to invest
yeah.
in their property. They were able to take on cheap loans, while the
Cheap
people in
loans
these redlined communities weren't able to take on loans at all. So
at all.
the people who were able to borrow money, they were able to pay for their children's education. They were able to
Yeah,
access cheap money that was devaluing. It was losing value over time.
yeah.
They were able to basically use it to compound their own wealth.
Yeah, and to control the masses because majority of
Exactly.
yeah because those people who they restrict from taking those loans are majority of the population. Let me use that word, right?
Yeah.
Let me say those who have access to that maybe loans and all that. Yeah, it could be because of maybe racial segregation and all those things, but they do it as they use it as a tool to control a particular class of persons. So it's
Right.
just a control system. Let me call it that way. And this is something good about Bitcoin because Bitcoin is a respecter of no person, right? And today is Nigerians' Independence Day. Funny enough, we're having this conversation. So Nigeria is 64 years. We gained independence from England, that's Great Britain, 1960. So today we are 64, right? And the system over time has been the same, you know, from one political class to another, taking advantage of, uh, the position and all that. And of course, it has to be through the fiat system. Power corrupts,
And
absolute power corrupts. So everyone just wants to go into that position to take advantage of the rest. So if we have a neutral, sound money, I think we won't be talking about a lot of things. This is what Bitcoin solves a lot of things that people are not even aware. They
yeah.
just see it as, like I said, they see it as uh, a way to diversify your portfolio. It's very funny. They
Yeah,
see it
that's
as an
yeah.
investment class and all those stuff. No, this is why when I talk to people in Nigeria, whenever I hold a meeting, a seminar, it doesn't have to be 100%. I just need one or two persons,
Yeah.
right? I don't need a multitude. If I can talk to one or two person, and I try to do that every day. I try to talk to people about Bitcoin, think about it, right? Think about it. You know, you are working and look at our purchasing power over time. And this will increase, like I said, when I say purchasing power in Naira, it will always devalue, right?
Because more
And if you're
Naira will
not
continue
thinking,
to be printed. Yeah.
of course, it continues to be printed. So if you're not actually thinking about this over time, irrespective of how hard you work, irrespective of how hard you work, you can work, from night to morning and all that. You can have multiple jobs. But if someone can just print over 100% of your purchasing power, what's the need, right?
Yeah.
What's the need? So, it was in this book, The Sovereign Individual. It said, taking is easier than making. So,
Yes.
what's the purpose of work if you can't control or if you can't benefit from the fruit of your labor, right?
Yeah.
So, when I talk to people about Bitcoin, I don't even talk about investment. Investment is the last thing. I just tell them, oh, there's also an advantage again. You know, you can have returns and all that. When I say returns, your purchasing power will always go. But before I get there, I actually try to tell them, think about this. What is actually money? Is it what they told you money is? Or what is money actually? Right? So we go
Yeah.
down, and then that's just the way I try to orange peel people. And when I do it that way, I think they get it immediately. Most people are, truth be told, Raj, most people are aware of Bitcoin. Anyone you meet, they've heard of it. But it
Yeah.
is the way they heard of it that restrict them, because they just feel it's something they can't access because it's too expensive, in quotes,
Right.
right? So nominal, they're looking at, they have this unit bias, and then they think, oh, maybe it's for certain kind of persons, or they think, oh, there's something else, which is scam, fiat, what is it called? Shit coins and all those things because of unit bias. So they feel, why
Yeah.
don't I buy Cardano at $0.3 when Bitcoin is something $1,000, right?
Right.
But you're not seeing it as something that's helping them save or protect themselves from currency devaluation that is not in the hands of anyone else, that is not controlled by anyone, because Bitcoin is neutral money compared to all these things, right? So it's just
Yeah.
the way I explain to them, and they get it. They just
So
get it.
I want to ask you, uh, this is one question that I like your explanations on. I've actually spoken to you about this before. So there's one cryptocurrency that everybody wants me to talk about, and I don't want to talk about it. That cryptocurrency is Ethereum. I don't like Ethereum. Uh I don't like um a lot of I don't like the fact that it has an unlimited supply. There's no limit to the supply. I don't like that it's from what I see, it's becoming more and more centralized. Can you explain why you don't like Ethereum? Like why wouldn't you just go buy Ethereum for $2,000 instead of buying fractions of Bitcoin for a $60,000 Bitcoin? Why would you want to buy fractions over a whole thing, like a whole coin?
Yeah. Well, like I said, when I came into the crypto space, because that is the the term everyone use, right? So when I came into the crypto space, I actually was buying Ethereum more than Bitcoin,
Oh,
because I still had unit bias. Yeah, I was buying Bitcoin, but I felt Bitcoin was, when I maybe somewhere I just have to, put some allocation, and then I should have more of the one that is, yeah, I felt Bitcoin was just something I should put maybe a little allocation because it's number one, right? So of course everyone should just have it because it's number one. And then Ethereum is something I can take advantage of, because at the time I started buying Ethereum, it was around 150 to 200 in
mm,
dollar terms, right? And the first circle, because 2020 to 2021 was the bull market. So I came in during the bull market. So I saw the effect. But then uh, the whole thing changed. It's not just because of the protocol changing, but the way it actually changed. You know, I'll also give an example of something else. When Luna collapsed, the Anchor Protocol, Luna UST, because this is Luna project. When Luna collapsed, there were so many persons I know that lost money in Luna. The reason they lost money, yeah, they were just holding Luna and they lost, right? Because the system collapsed. Now, when I saw that, and the way Ethereum moved from proof of work to proof of stake. I was like, if one or two, well, how can I be running from a fiat system controlled by people and then going into another system that people can arbitrarily control? It didn't actually make sense, right? How can you be running from something and you're going to the same thing and thinking you are actually doing better? No. So it didn't make sense, and I was like, no, I can't continue holding this. So I converted my Ethereum to Bitcoin, right? But not just that. Now, with the way Ethereum is, most people are actually not saying this because Ethereum today is actually different from the Ethereum before the merge because the protocol is now, yeah, they might say it's decentralized, right? But there's still foundation. They still have a foundation that can easily cash out their hits, of which they've been doing lately. I don't know why they've been doing it more this year than than previously, right? But Bitcoin doesn't have any foundation. Bitcoin doesn't have any. Yeah, they are developers, but they are not. They cannot just come together and change the protocol, right? And where you have something like it, where you are relying on, of course, like I said, they pass the Howey test because you are relying on the Ethereum Foundation to project this protocol to make you outperform, right? So all this just made me say no. It's better I focus on what I know has been because Bitcoin has never changed. Of course, Bitcoin has been the way it has been. If for example, tomorrow you wake up and you see that Bitcoin is no more 20, is not the monetary policy has changed. I think everyone will start dumping Bitcoin, right? So because of that, I was like, no, there's something different about Bitcoin and it. And so when people are actually buying Ethereum, they've actually not studied it very well. They've not studied the fundamentals and the way the supply goes, the mint and the bond and all that. Because this is what happens to Luna. And like I said, it is possible, truth be told, it's possible for Ethereum to actually go to zero. It's actually possible because it's just a belief system, right? It's just a trust system that people are holding on to. Yes, there's an element of a trust system in Bitcoin, but that trust system is because you can't change Bitcoin. At least everyone knows that. But for the fact that Ethereum can be changed, and for the fact that from the point at which the protocol was changed, right, which is the merge, the mint and the bond is not more even doing what it's meant to do. So there's now more ETH supply, coming up over time, right? So once it gets to that point where the supply gets to the what I'm trying to say is once it gets to the level where if you go to ultrasound money websites, you'll see what I'm talking about. But once it gets, can you hear me? Okay. So look at that. Now, once it gets to the point where this supply touches that merge line, I think the trust in it will move overnight. This was the same thing that happened to Luna Terra, where because the protocol of Luna is to always mint Luna when UST is below $1 and to always bond Luna. Can you hear me?
So to give some context, this is the
Yeah.
supply of Ethereum. The merge
Yeah.
happened when Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake. So proof
Proof of
of
stake.
work requires that you put in some energy, some resources to produce more Ethereum. With proof of
Yeah.
stake, it's different. So all you have to do with proof of stake is if you have a certain amount of Ethereum, you can validate transactions and you can get paid for it. So basically, it went from a system where you can work to produce more Ethereum. You can use your energy,
Yeah.
your resources. You can put in you can invest in the network essentially. It went to a fiat currency system. So in the fiat currency system, if you
Yeah.
hold a bunch of real estate, if you hold a bunch of stocks, you'll keep getting dividends forever. You'll keep getting paid. You literally never have to sell them. So that's essentially what's happened here. So if you hold a lot of Ethereum and you just hold on to it and you keep it for however long you want to, you'll keep getting paid cash flow and you never have to sell or redistribute your wealth. Bitcoin is different.
Yeah.
So Bitcoin, the way that Bitcoin works is no matter what, it's going to be proof of work. You can't, the
Yeah.
reason why proof of work is so important is because with proof of work, you know that somebody did something to get that Bitcoin. So that Bitcoin was produced through work, resources, time, energy, whatever it was. With Ethereum, you don't know whether or not the Bitcoin was created through somebody mining versus somebody just holding onto Ethereum and getting paid interest. So to them, it was free, essentially. So what's happening
Of
here
course.
is because of this proof of work to proof of stake merge, after proof of stake, the people who hold a lot of Bitcoin started getting paid for staking. They started getting rewards for staking. So they got interest essentially. And because they
Yeah.
were getting rewards for interest, they were diluting the holdings of everyone else. So new Ethereum was
That
being
is not
created out of
actually
thin air.
staking.
Sorry?
I said they were diluting everyone else who is actually not staking.
Yes, exactly. So anyone who's not staking, they're going to stay stagnant, while the people who are staking are going to keep getting more and more and more. So it's just, if you really think about it from that perspective, it's exactly the same thing as the current system. So in the current system, if somebody has a, I just had this because I was making a video, but if somebody has a $100 bill and they just hold on to that $100 bill,
Yeah.
their purchasing power is going to either stay the same or decrease because prices aren't going to go down. Prices are always going to go up. But what that means is that anyone who holds real estate, for example, they're going to get 5, 6, 7, 10% in cash flows every single year. And no matter what, they're going to be ahead of you. Doesn't matter what you do, you can do anything you want to and you can get ahead. But that's essentially what Ethereum became.
Yeah. Of course. So,
Right? So no, go ahead.
and okay, and from this chart, I think it is very self-explanatory. And from the merge, the bond and all that. But of course, it is. Yeah, look at that. Just look at the log scale, right? It's almost going back to where it started. And I feel at this point, it actually removed the confidence of people because this is the essence why it went to proof of stake, right? To actually control this with the bond. So the idea was that the bond should actually control the supply, right? So when it's issuing new coins, the bond should control the coins issued. That's so it should be net negative supply, right? Not net positive. So at the point where it gets back to the merge, then what's the essence of the mint and the bond? So what's the essence of the proof of stake, right? So it's just favoring those who are staking. And for someone to have 32 ETH, it takes a lot. An average person won't be able to validate a node or validate transactions, right? So it actually keeps centralizing the network and all that. And I was comparing it to Luna, like I said, this is just a trust system. And at the point where it gets back to that line, right? Okay, look at it, right? So at the point where it gets back to that point of the merge, I think a lot of persons holding the trust system will go out. And I think probably that is why the Ethereum Foundation has been selling more ETH lately. But let me just explain what happened in, what is it called? For Luna. So the Luna protocol was, and I watched this happen, Luna went to zero. So the Luna protocol was designed in a way, because of the algorithmic stablecoin, it was designed in a way where for every the Luna will continue minting as long as UST stays below $1, right? And it will start burning when UST goes above $1. So that was what was keeping UST above $1. At the same time, that was what was controlling, Luna supply, mint and bond protocol, right? Now, it's just, yeah, you want to
So
say something?
essentially what they were, sorry, I had myself muted. So essentially what they were doing is they were controlling the supply. If the price went above $1, like this coin was supposed to have a $1 value. If the price went above,
Yeah,
they would uh they would add some to the economy to fulfill that demand, bring it back down to
yeah,
$1. If it went below
yeah,
$1, they would take some away from the economy. So they would buy some from the economy to bring
yeah,
that supply demand uh I guess curve right back to
Yeah.
that one equilibrium.
Yeah.
And that was
And
automated.
I, of course, automated. So it got to a point where it couldn't hold. Yeah, because the system was exploited. Of course, it's a centralized system of which every centralized system can be exploited and all that. And then Luna went, the UST went below $1 and couldn't go above $1, right? So all the time, all the while it was below $1, Luna kept minting, right? It kept minting, it kept minting, and it kept minting. And of course, as it means, it's devaluing the holders. And most people noticed this, and then most people were selling their Luna and it dumped. And that was how Luna protocol, because how people were selling Luna, the supply was increasing, the UST was below $1, it was still minting, and it couldn't hold, and the system collapsed. Right?
I heard
Now,
that
this was
I heard
yeah.
with the UST, essentially what they did, some hedge fund basically set up a leveraged short.
Yeah, that was I was explaining. It was actually because it's a control system, right?
Right.
And the protocol is just a trust system. So it couldn't hold because people could exploit it. People could exploit it. It's not like Bitcoin that it requires energy, it requires resources. So you cannot just exploit it. You need, but people, yeah, hedge funds, market makers, they can do all that, right? So what I'm saying here is that same thing can happen. I'm just, I just want people to understand that it is not impossible because I know people were saying no, there always be someone to hold Luna, and so UST will always go back and all that. But if the hedge fund could exploit the system because it's a control system and because it doesn't take energy-based resources to actually exploit it, it can be exploited. So I'm just saying it's not impossible with Ethereum that, if the same supply on average, on average for the past months, it has been, I think, over 50,000 new hits every month, every 30 days, over 60,000. Now, if it continues that way, by early next year, it should go back to the point where uh, the merge took place, right? And that alone will break the trust system in it and those who are holding it. And the more people keep selling back their hits, you don't know what can happen.
And
So
that's the thing.
I
I
yeah,
think one thing that people are missing is that again, supply or price is determined at the margin. So what that means is
of course.
whoever is if let's say people start dumping and they start dumping 100,000 ETH, 10,000 ETH, 5,000 ETH, they keep dumping, keep dumping, keep dumping, and there aren't enough buyers to take that ETH,
Yeah,
then there's a problem because
of
price
course.
can literally go to the cost of production. It can go to zero because right now the cost of production is
It's
zero, right? So
zero. Of course.
if somebody's just holding Ethereum, if somebody's just holding Ethereum and they're getting their interest, they can keep selling that interest payment. They can keep
Yeah,
selling it to the economy and they can keep decreasing the value of ETH. And that's the
yeah,
scary part. So the supply can go up forever, but it's very likely that demand won't go up forever because people are already figuring out the problem.
yeah,
And
yeah.
with Bitcoin, this isn't possible because with Bitcoin, there's a fixed supply. There's also a cost to produce it. So
To
with
produce,
Ethereum, I think it costs zero to produce it at this point because you can
of
just hold
course,
on
it's proof of
to
stake.
32 ETH and then you can whatever your production cost is. I'm not sure what that essentially costs, but I can find out after this. Maybe I'll post something or that. But with Bitcoin, it's a competition to produce it, and everybody has
Yeah,
the same kind of costs. Everybody around the world has to use electricity. They have to use mining equipment. They have to buy this mining equipment, and that's an investment that they have to make. So
yeah,
those miners may not be willing to sell below a certain price. They may just hold on to
of
what they
course.
have until
Yeah,
demand is no long or demand is increased so far that they now get a price that they are willing to accept. And then on top of that, the Bitcoin ETFs are just going to hold on to as much as they can. They're not going to sell again. I think that's one thing.
yeah,
With the Ethereum ETFs, I think the Ethereum ETF holders are actually getting hurt because they're not staking the ETF. So
yeah,
so it's a whole thing. I mean, the entire system is I almost with Ethereum at least, the entire system is almost designed to screw over the people who don't understand this.
Who don't understand it. Yeah, yeah. Why with Bitcoin, the entire system is designed to help you, whether you understand it or not. The moment you're holding it, right? And of course, yeah. And this is when I want to explain Bitcoin to people. I don't yeah, it's good you actually go down the rabbit hole and try to understand it, right? But everyone won't understand it, truth be told. And even if you
Yeah,
don't understand it, nobody is screwing you up behind, right? Because it costs everyone something to hold Bitcoin from the issuance. It costs the miners, for the miner for you and I, those who are just hold. If you're not mining, or if you're mining, of course, it costs you resources. And if you're not mining, it costs you, purchase. You have to purchase it from those who mine it, and there's a
you have to
cost to
delay
that, right?
gratification. Yes.
Of course, to purchase that. But with it, what does it cost Vitalik for his tax to go from 1,000 to 2,000?
Nothing.
Nothing. It doesn't cost him anything. And of course, the supply is unlimited. It's just fiat. What
That's
does
it.
it cost Jerome Powell to get US dollar?
I think I was actually looking at this. It costs $12 and 12.6 cents to
Oh,
print one $100 bill.
okay. So,
So that's the bottom. That's the bottom.
yeah, that's the bottom. So, what I'm saying here is at least you understand that Bitcoin is stable. The
Yes.
protocol is stable, right? You understand that there's no one screwing you up, and there's no one, when it was after I studied lunar collapse, I was like, no, this thing can
Yeah.
happen to any centralized system. Irrespective of the system, it can happen to any centralized system. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
And that's not to say that centralization is a bad thing. I think
No, 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 of course.
the main issue with a lot of these cryptocurrencies today is that they're trying to replace Bitcoin, but nothing can
Yeah,
replace Bitcoin for what it
nothing.
is. Nothing can replace gold. Nothing can
Because
replace Bitcoin.
that is what most people think, right?
Yes,
The next Bitcoin. So it's actually a
that's
false
it.
notion.
Yeah, so they think that Bitcoin is broken. They think Bitcoin can't scale. They think Bitcoin is this, that. I think let's say Ethereum, for example, maybe it'll be good for I was reading something about uh a decentralized internet. I don't know anything about that. Maybe in the future, maybe something. But I mean, who knows? I don't even know how that would work. But I mean, worst case, if anything, if I need some Ethereum, I'll sell some of my Bitcoin to buy it,
Yeah, of course. You
right?
can use it. But when this is also what I tell people, when when they try to talk to me about other cryptocurrency and all that, and they say this one does this and this one does that. I say, of course, there's no problem, but I don't need to save in them, right? I don't need to save in them to use them. I can just use them when I need them. Of course, let's say somebody wants to send me, uh, someone wants to do maybe how do I explain? Somebody wants to use a decentralized protocol, maybe DEX or DeFi or whatever, and it's a business I want to take advantage. Let me say I'm supposed to take advantage of that business. So I'm just giving this as an example, and I am meant to purchase it for that. I can just purchase the amount I need and do what I want to do, but it doesn't mean I have to hold it as my savings, as my money, because it's not, right? It's not. So I think this is where I try to make people understand that it is not money. It's not replaced. It's not Bitcoin is here, of course, to take the power out of the hands of the government. I like that definition very well. Taking the power out of the hands of government, not just government, any central. Because when people are bringing up these shit coins, they are still trying to do the same thing that the fiat system is doing, right? Because it doesn't cost them anything to print this thing. What does it cost to print meme coin? Of course, zero. But then the person who is buying it, is your savings you're converting to PEP,
Yeah.
and you don't know what can happen at the back end. So this is just what I've tried to help you. If you want to actually save and plan for the future, just stick to Bitcoin. Every other thing
That's
is,
it. That's exactly the
yeah,
way I see it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Hey, okay, so
yeah.
I want to wrap this up. Where can my audience find you if they find your content interesting, if they want to learn more from you?
I'm on Twitter. That's just
Perfect.
where I know most of my posts I focus on Naira, and that is because I want most because yeah, Nigeria, most people are not learned, most people are not educated, and information people don't really have. So, like we said, charity begins at home, right? So I try to use my platform, uh, not just on Twitter. I also try to make daily posts on WhatsApp, right? So
Amazing.
I try to, yeah, of course, daily posts. I try to do that every day for years now. I've been doing that. So I try to make a post where I can just say very short, people's time span. So people don't really have the time to read a lot of. So I just try to make it very brief, right? And I target it to the naira and how Bitcoin can protect you from currency devaluation and all that, and not just that, and then to help you project into the future, build family and all that. So I
Is
do
that
that
a
on
group or
Twitter.
something? Is that on
Yeah, I have a
WhatsApp? Is
group.
that a group?
Yeah, I do it on a group and I do it on my status,
Oh,
like my
okay.
WhatsApp.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because not every person that sees my status is in the same group as I am. So I
Right.
do that. I do it on a group. I have a community. And at the same time, I always post on my status, right? Every day,
Amazing.
every day. So this is just the way I try to help people, understand this early because we are early. Truth be told,
That's it.
we are early. Yeah, we are very early. This is just like is it in 2004 of when they made gold ETF, right? It was in
Yeah.
2004, right? Yeah.
I think it was
So
2004. Yeah.
this, yeah, 2004 is these are 2024 today.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone should be saying I'm late to Bitcoin because that's what most people say. And when they say that, I try to tell them, no, stop looking at the price. Yes. For example, let me give this example. In 2020, Bitcoin cost 3 million naira, one Bitcoin. So let's say you earn 250K monthly. It will take you, and I'm not removing expenses, I'm not removing just round sum, 250K. So it will take you a year to afford one Bitcoin, right? That was in
2022.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was around 3 million, 2020. Yeah. It will take you just a year's work to afford one Bitcoin. Today, at 104 million naira for one, it will take you over 34 years work.
Wow.
Are you
Oh
seeing
yeah,
the
that's
time?
true.
Are
That
you
makes sense.
seeing?
Is the wage the
Yeah,
same?
the wage is the same.
Wage is the same. Wow.
It's the
With the
same.
inflation. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when I explain it this way, people automatically just forget about the price. Because this price is actually, I don't know if there's a way to make this thing very to make it insert. It will be, I don't know. Because it's actually stopping a lot of persons. They just feel it's expensive. Yeah, even then, if 3 million was expensive, today it's still expensive. Tomorrow it will still be expensive, right? So it's always expensive. I think one sat is 0 point something. One sat to be, I think you can change the BTC to
There
sat.
you go. This is one sat.
Okay. So 1.04. So it's just, yeah, because one Bitcoin is 104 million, right?
Yeah.
But I was just trying to paint the picture there where just 4 years ago, your 1 year earning could afford you one Bitcoin. And 4 years later, it will take you 34 years.
That's crazy.
That's almost your life. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can be financially free in 4 years if you just bought it,
Yeah.
right? Almost everyone I knew, I know now, almost everyone could afford with 3 million because that is almost the amount you could use to purchase a land, right? For a plot of land, 100 by 100,
Right.
that's what we call it here. So when people are thinking of just price, I try to tell them, no, you are looking at it wrong.
Yeah.
See this as a way to protect your purchasing power because whether you like it or not, the moment you're holding cash, you are at the mercy of the government. whatever the government does, that is what will affect you. So if they devalue the currency, how many percent, I just try to make them understand that what happened to Weimar Germany, right, in the 1930s and so, when
Yeah.
the mark collapsed, can happen to any country. Then they
Yeah.
didn't have Bitcoin. Now we have Bitcoin. So why are you delaying? So
And they'll do whatever they
that's
can to protect themselves, right? To make sure that
of
people
course,
don't realize that they're
of
the
course.
ones who are making these mistakes. They're the ones who are doing all these things that actually ruined your finances. And that's the I think that's the conclusion here. I think trusting yourself, studying the system for yourself is the best way to go. So what I'll do here is I'll link your Twitter in the description below. Any last words of wisdom?
Uh I think that's
That's
all.
it.
I
Okay,
just
just
yeah, I just want
study and
people,
accumulate.
of course, study, accumulate. Don't allow people to tell you Bitcoin is that. I like what there's a quote. It said the beginning of wisdom is the definition of terms, right? Just try to study what is money. I think that quote is by Socrates or so. The beginning of
Sorry,
wisdom
can you say that again? The beginning of wisdom
is the definition of terms. I think that's by Socrates. So
The beginning
the
of sorry,
beginning
the
of
beginning of wisdom
wis- yeah, is the definition of terms.
is the definition.
Of
Sorry, I
terms.
don't understand the last word. Oh, definition of
It
terms. What
terms,
does that mean?
yes. Yeah. It means when you start uh understanding words for what they are, understanding terms. For example, when people say inflation and they think inflation is CPI, that is they are not defining inflation well. Inflation is not
Right.
CPI. Inflation is monetary, it's not
I get what you
price.
mean.
Price
Yes.
is the
Yes.
consequences of the money. Yeah, you get that. So I like this quote very well. So when you try to define some things, they talk about inflation, they talk about they say deflation is bad. No, deflation is good for you.
Yeah, deflation is good for you. And see, that's the thing.
Is
That's what most people don't really quite understand. They think that they've been told a lie and they think that it's the truth. That's again,
yeah,
same thing with the money that we use today. They've been told something and they think that it's the truth.
yeah, and that's why
Great
when I
quote.
when I when I try to explain what Bitcoin is, I try to actually explain what money is, because people just think money is currency, and they don't really understand these terms. They don't understand these terms. They
Yeah.
think money is currency, just a medium of exchange, just a unit of account. No, and of course for the government, money is a tool of control.
Yes,
But
exactly.
yeah, of course, that is the most important aspect of money to them. They don't care about medium. They don't care about store of value. They don't care about unit of accounts. They don't care about medium of. What they care about is tool of control, right?
Tool of
For me, what I
control.
care
Wow.
about is store of value. So we don't have the same interest.
Wow.
So just that, with that, people should understand. If you understand these things, you know what money is. Money is not just currency, right? Study what money is. Don't let someone tell, because I know someone in Nigeria who is a very big name, he's an economist. He advised a lot of person. In fact, he was advising people to buy Nigerian bonds, paying 10% per annum, and our inflation is 400%. How can someone survive buying that?
They're losing money.
You're losing money, right? Yeah, he was saying government bond is risk free. The way they say US Treasury is risk
Yeah.
free. No, it's not
Risk
risk
free.
free. My risk is inflation. And he
Yeah.
was saying is not risk free. He was saying it's risk free because you always get your unit, which is the nominal. There's no loss
Yeah.
of your nominal amounts, right? But there's loss in purchasing power. So, these are the things that I keep telling people, study them, try to understand them. Don't let people, or don't let the economists per se try to make you think that Bitcoin is not good for you. So
Yeah.
that's
That's
just,
it.
yeah, yeah.
That's it. I think once you can wrap your head around that, once you can wrap your head around just the fact that almost everything is a scam, almost every
Yeah, of course.
financial instrument, all these things are scams. I think they're all trying to just extract your wealth. Of course, sometimes they need to because they have to run their operations, and that's fine. But now there's a competitor that works so much better
Yeah,
and won't
better.
extract your wealth. That's the key. Okay, perfect. So I'll link your Twitter in the description below. Great conversation. Appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thank you as always.